So many people have the retirement mindset of work really hard at something and then kick your feet up. And that's like the most toxic mindset to have.
Welcome to the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast, where business success meets personal purpose. Here we empower entrepreneurs to strike that perfect balance between massive growth and unwavering values. Dive deep into strategies, inspirations, and stories that ensure you set your foundation in faith and don't compromise your family on your ascent to the top. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Maverick Entrepreneur, and I am excited to be hanging out with the total stud, making me wonder if I even still have my man card, the one and only Cameron Toor. Thank you for being here, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You look way too pretty to be on my set.
Gosh. I feel like it's the first compliment you give me every time I walk in the door.
I think I'm intimidated just by your looks. And then when I find out what a stud you are, I'm thinking to myself, dang. I go home and ask my wife, babe, do you even love me? I mean, I need some edification. Tell me I'm awesome. Touch me. Tell me something. I mean,
Well, I'll tell you what, if I didn't marry my wife, I'd probably look a lot different. She dresses me.
Oh, good for her. Guys like us, we marry up.
Yeah, I definitely did. Luckily, I met her before the military, and I got out all dirty and beat up, and she's like, hey, we got to go shopping.
That's it. She took a beat up military dude and rebuilt you.
Yeah, well, she got me before, so MMA fighter at the time, so she dealt with that whole mess too, but stuck with me through the entire military, long distance, and then when it was time to get out, she took me back into the house and cleaned me up and put me back into the world.
That's a real woman.
Yeah.
Didn't even know that.
Yeah.
But now I'm gonna change. I'm gonna take a hard left real quick before we get into all the business entrepreneurial kind of crushing it stuff. Wait, MMA fighter?
Yeah.
You know what I realized? Because one of my other podcasts, this guy is just a total stud on the mat. I think I like being around warriors.
I do too. I think I naturally get drawn to them. Yeah, it's tough, right? Like a lot of people have an idea of what a warrior is, but I think it's different for everybody. And that's what I realized when I got into the military. It's like, oh, these are just people like you and I, right? That just have this ability to, or I shouldn't say ability, but I always said I was too scared to quit, right? So it was like same kind of thing. They just won't quit. Doesn't matter how much you beat them up. But to me, in that moment, that's when the definition of a warrior kind of changed for me. So normal guys that just refuse to quit.
You know, it's amazing. I remember as a kid, I was always watching like these movies, and I would just be getting so into them, and they were always these warrior movies. I don't care if it was some cheesy one. I was watching I love movies like Richard Gere and, The First Knight, but he was like the knight of the round table, and I was like, I remember going to my dad, I want a sword like that. And my dad was looking at me like, all right, son. And then, I played football in high school and just got my butt kicked all the time. You know what I mean? I was like not a warrior on the football field, that's for sure. I was like the pretty boy, like Metro. They'd be like, you're so Metro. But I still would watch all this stuff. And then my dad was a Marine. My grandpa was in the Army. I loved, war movies. I'd always be out doing push-ups and doing stuff. I mean, you can't tell now, but for some reason, but I'm not the guy that gets into MMA. I've never like had this thing like I want to go roll around on the mat and get sweaty with someone. But I see a guy like you, an MMA fighter. What was that all about?
Well, I mean, it started, I had a very interesting upbringing. My dad was very aggressive kind of guy, similar in that way, but the aggression more came from wanting his kids to be what he wasn't, right? So it was like at age 5, he got us into martial arts, and at that age, you're starting like Taekwondo karate, which is just like punch a board, break it kind of deal. But we started competing. We were really good. My brother and I got a twin brother. It was just a family of 4.
Is he as good looking as you?
Well, he's an identical twin, but my wife would say I'm the better looking one.
Oh, he sees this episode, man.
We gotta send him that clip right there.
But that'll be my tag, my highlight reel.
Right the better looking twin. Just put that at the top. But anyways, so we started competing at a really, really young age, sparring, grappling, stuff like that. But it was through Taekwondo, and that's at that age they kind of mix it with karate and all kinds of stuff. It wasn't until like middle school, high school that you start getting into more of the combative martial arts. So Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, stuff like that. So I was always like a multi-sport athlete, which kind of made it difficult in high school because you want to be the varsity athlete. It's cool. At that time, being the kid that does martial arts is not cool.
Yeah.
It's nerdy. But I still trained with the high school wrestling team and whatnot during off season. But when I was 17, I actually was asked by a local promotion to go amateur, and the fight that they gave me was 3 days after my 18th birthday. So it was the youngest amateur fight in California history.
What? How'd you do?
I won 7 seconds. So that's my claim to fame, right? The rest of the career is based on this one moment. But 3 days after my 18th birthday, they do a big build up. The promotion was Epic, which is through California Amateur Mixed Martial Arts Organization. But I ended up knocking the guy out in 7 seconds.
You mean Epic Fighting?
Yeah.
Jason Stewart.
Yeah, Jason Stewart.
Jason, you're getting a plug on my podcast. I didn't know.
You know Jason?
I've been a sponsor since he started Epic.
No way.
I literally, we were down at 4 Point Sheraton.
Yeah, that's where yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I got to get him on this podcast.
Yeah, where's Jason?
So
must have been Epic 18 or 19.
No way.
Yeah, one of those first ones. Yeah, I got photos and everything. But I to this day, I stay in contact with Jason on Facebook and kind of see what he's doing.
Guy.
Yeah,
I love that guy. He's
Super
a free
cool.
spirit, man. But he had a vision. Talk about an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That guy
serial.
Hungry.
Hustle.
Always doing something.
Hustler.
Man, from the
so you've been coming from good stock. So you did the fight, you won this guy. What happened?
Well, this is where the story actually starts to get sad, right? Your first MMA fight, your first amateur fight, you win like that, you get, the big trophy, knockout of the night. Everybody, they had me on ESPN radio, all kinds of stuff. To an 18-year-old's brain, don't have to work. I'm built for this, right? Like I can just show up and go beat somebody up. I don't have to do this. So, the next fight was actually a no contest. This was, Jason will appreciate this one. It was an outdoor fight at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, and it was so hot that day that the mats were like 115 degrees. So they were encouraging us to like fight in socks, tape the socks to your feet. Guy I fought, bottoms of his feet completely burned off. So he had me clinched up against the cage the whole time, and apparently just had too much pressure on me that in between rounds they called off the fight. I look around the ref, and I mean both of his feet just completely flayed off. I mean, it was bad. The ambulance had to come in. I think they ended up doing a skin graft off of his butt. Yeah, so that was fight number 2. So I'm still on top of the world, right? I win by no contest or whatever they ruled it. Fight number 3, I fought Razul Ware, who unfortunately I just found out passed away. But he ended up beating me. I think it did get reversed later because it was an illegal move. But took me down, went to the ground. I held on, hoping the ref would stand it up because there wasn't much action there. And then, he got both arms on top of my face, but under his body, and he slammed me on my head twice. So went unconscious. He landed probably 4 or 5 more punches before I woke up, and that was that. So
you're still pretty though.
Yeah, I mean,
but as your chiropractor, now I'm freaking out because you never told me that in your consultation.
Did I not?
No.
Oh, I was on the Army fight team too.
Yeah. All right. So this is how crazy this is. Just to get, and don't worry, we're gonna talk about business, because the mindset of being a fighter, the mindset of being a winner, because winning has a mindset. And I knew the day I met you, I'm like, man, I don't know who that guy is, but I like him. And then we come to find out you were on Special Forces, Special Teams, a Ranger, with my brother-in-law.
Different times, same group.
Yeah. Different time, but he knows you well and looks at you like a brother. Like he literally was blowing me up, going, "Hey, I saw you took that picture with that dude.
Yeah.
How well do you know him?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just getting to know him." He's like, and I remember going, "What a small world."
Oh man, I love Garrett. Garrett's such a good dude, and we actually ended up meeting after I got out of the military. Rangers, we're such a small group within special operations, right? Just to give you a comparison, at any given time, there's about 4,000 to 5,000 Rangers. At any given time, there's probably 30,000 Green Berets. I think Navy SEALs are probably around that same number. So
I did not know it was that intense of a small group.
It's small because it's it's a feeder program for what you would know as Delta Force, CAG. But also it's just the retention rate is really bad there because it's such a hard lifestyle. So it naturally attracts a younger guy that's ready just to go, balls to the wall, kind of like right out of the gate. But it's not a sustainable life. You're doing 10-mile runs every morning to go lift right after that, to spend 8 hours at the range in the burning sun, to do night training and CQB that night, and then get 3 hours of rest and then repeat it every single day. So The retention's really low, but all that to say, when you see another ranger, right? Obviously, when you're in, you see another ranger, you recognize them. We all look the same. We're the same guys, covered in tattoos, usually fairly short, but relatively built. When you're out and you see another ranger, it's like, that's my best friend. Like as soon as Garrett and I saw each other,
So you guys know, you guys got the
oh
look.
yeah, I mean, and
Is there a certain tattoo I need to get? Like I should never. I don't fake well. I could never
no,
fake it.
yeah,
Plus, you guys are tough at the next level. I'd be like, "You're gonna do what?
yeah,
No, I'm gonna cuddle my wife. I can't do it."
yeah. See, I'm at that point now, though.
You're the mindset though. No, you once you have that ranger mindset, dude, you don't lose it.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna tell you the way that what's amazing to me, because being in San Diego, we're in a military town. Like I take care of so many SEALs,
Mhm.
SWIC guys. I've taken care of Raiders.
Nice. Yeah.
Raiders have a similar mentality, but I look at when you get out, I look at Garrett, what he's done in business.
Mhm.
Like he's just got a mind of like this detail. Even when he was in the Rangers, he developed a thing because his sucked, and he's like,
Mhm.
"No, I had to." And then it created a business model for him. Matter of fact, Garrett, you're going to be on this podcast. I can't believe you're trying to. Don't duck me, bro. You're family, and but I see this mindset. You guys have a different mindset.
Mhm.
I look what we're going to get into what you've done, but you've had this mindset of you do not quit.
Mhm.
How is you think maybe your training on the mat all those years, then going into the military, all that training, now that you're an entrepreneur, you've had multiple companies, you've sold, you've built, you've done a lot of different things, which we'll get into, but how do you think it's served you, all that training?
Yeah, I think the obvious answer that most people would expect is like the never give up mentality, but I think more specifically, especially we're talking about Cogworks, which is Garrett's company, and Tour Knives, which is my first company. It's being able to do a lot with a little, right? So it's like when you're overseas, for example, it's very common to see Rangers, Green Berets, more Rangers, I would say, because we have lower funding, in the riggers room, which is where they rig up parachutes and stuff, and they have all the sewing machines making their own gear, right? Hey, we just came off this mission last night. We found that we needed a better harness for our breaching shotgun. You're going in, you're making it yourself, right? And that was very much where Garrett and I probably connected, was like, hey man, Garrett is like, our ATAC systems, are basically our technology on the battlefield sucks, right?
Yeah.
So Garrett goes in, he's like, I'm gonna make this, 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 this. Now he's doing all kinds of stuff with radio tech, and
Oh,
he's got a whole team that's just building stuff well beyond what I can put
what
together.
I'm so proud of that though, here's the thing is you might be able to build the thing, but now you know what Garrett's done? He scaled the thing.
Mhm.
He's told people to do that are what to do. Like he is a CEO of a massive company, but he started off with just making his own stuff, but he developed a leadership skill set.
Mhm.
I see that same thing in you. Like you just have this natural, like I'm gonna that leading, that alpha, that why do you think where did that come from? Was it an instinct and that's why you became a ranger? Or you got there and then that pressure of being a ranger maybe brought out that entrepreneurial leader on the inside? Was it in there that under the pressure came out, or do you think it was developed in there?
That's actually a really good question. I think when you make it into Ranger Bat amongst other special operations groups, they beat you down, right? They kill your ego and they make you reliant on your team. So it builds this thing in your head of, I'm not good enough for what my vision is. I'm not good enough to go take out ISIS by myself. I'm not good enough to go bring these knives to market. I'm not good enough to go secure these defense contracts myself. So I'm reliant on a team to do that. So yeah, there's ego is killer, and it's tough, right? You'll see a lot of guys in business want to talk about themselves rather than their teams. And for me, I can tell you right now, I am the worst at business. I'm good at building teams. So I have an idea and I'm like, hey, this is kind of what I want. Let's figure out who the best person is for this avenue, this avenue, this avenue, this avenue. And sure, you're gonna pay a lot, right? You're gonna have to put investment into it, but it's always gonna come back to you because you're hiring the experts in those areas. And that's how a ranger team is also built, right? You have a team leader, you have a saw gunner, which is the machine gunner. You have a couple riflemen. One of those riflemen's a grenadier, so they're the ones in charge of shooting the grenades. You got one that's a breacher, and you got a medic, you know? So it's like everybody has their own respective role. It's not like one ranger is going onto a mission and trying to be the medic, the grenadier, the saw gunner, the rifleman, the breacher. You know, it's this collective effort. So,
I need
um,
better names for all my people. I
yeah,
like every name you just mentioned.
let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
Let me help you out with that. Let's
Yeah.
get some
Yeah.
cool military
Saw
titles.
gunner.
Yeah.
Oh, I need a saw gunner right now.
Yeah, saw gunner. Squad automatic weapons. Man, I almost screwed that up. That would have been bad.
Oh, dude,
But
that's
yeah.
so funny. So that's that. I think more entrepreneurs need to hear that. They get so ego focused, they think they have to do it all, and then they get stuck at a ceiling. You know, that's even a word for me, man. I realize I need to put better people. I do it in church.
Yeah.
I realized that I couldn't do what I do unless I had an epic team. But it's funny, I think in the church world as a pastor, I think through a different filter. But in business, sometimes you can be afraid as an entrepreneur, can anyone do it better than me? So I'll just do it. And then you get a ceiling over your life, and your capacity only can go so big. How do you scale past that is exactly what you're saying. Build the team.
Yeah, and there's that old saying out there, like, if you want it done right, do it yourself.
Yeah.
And there's a line on that, right? And I'm a strong believer, you know, when you build a business, you want to understand every corner of that business, but you don't want to operate it, because at that point you start working for your company instead of on your company,
Yeah.
and that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, we'll use knives again. You know, we're building Tour knives at the time. Sure, I could have sat there with my brother and made
How old were you when you started building that company?
So it's 2015. So I was 23, 22, somewhere in
Wow.
that
So you're
ballpark.
starting your first company, building a knife company with your brother. How big did that get?
So it started out in a U-Haul storage unit where Connor and I were just beating on steel, making what we wanted was a breaching tool and something that could be used for defensive measure at the same time, right? And then cut your MREs, do everything else with it. So it was really built out of necessity. Right now, where it's at is about, I want to say it's probably about 50 employees, 40,000 square feet, and if I had to guess, revenue probably 12 to 15 million, somewhere in that ballpark
Can you
annually.
believe that was your baby?
I know.
In a dream.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In a
But
U-Haul.
in a U-Haul. Yeah. And you know, how it really started was Connor and I, me being home on leave, watching that show Forged in Fire.
No.
Yeah, with a couple beers in our hand, going to Home Depot the next day, getting enough brick and mortar to build a forge in our backyard in my mom's crappy little house in Santee. And then, you know, using her oven to temper the blades. And so, and, you know, I would take the blades back to Georgia where I was stationed, give them to 4 or 5 guys. We'd beat them up on deployment or out in training, come back with a little bit of feedback. And then Connor would make more masterpieces. And I remember there's this defining moment where I came back from a deployment or something, and I had left with these janky pieces of steel and came back, and Connor had just like become a master bladesmith at that point. I was like, okay, this is your side, right? Like, you take over this side, you're killing it. Let me do more of the handle stuff. Let me do a little bit more of the marketing stuff. Let me do the back end stuff. You keep running with the blades. That was really where Tour Knife started. So that was the first company.
You know what's amazing? I didn't realize, you know, one of my friends, Dr. Deddy, is a massive knife guy. And I'd be talking guns all the time. He'd be talking knives all the time. I'm like, bro, okay. So I went, I said, I told my wife, babe, talk to Dr. Kevin and find out what knife. For my birthday, I want to get a legit knife. Anyway, she got me this knife and I was like, sweet. I was like, got my first like real knife. When she told me how much she spent on that knife, I literally almost lost my mind thinking, people pay this much for knives. And so I called Dr. Kevin. I said, hey, bro, did my wife get ripped off? He goes, actually, I got her a deal because I'm friends with that guy that makes those knives. That's a custom knife. It uses this. That's why the blade looks like this. Gave me all this behind the scene. I'm like, he goes, you should go to Vegas with me to the knife show. I'm like, there's a knife show in Vegas. When I looked into how big the knife world is, I was thinking to myself, I did the wrong thing. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And that was like the first knife company. We were selling $400 or $500 blades. And to somebody who's not using it, it's like, why would I ever spend that much on a blade? You know, they look at a Benchmade and they think that's expensive. It's $200 blade.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very niche world. It's also the most critical world, right? So you got to nail it. If you're going to try and tap into that world, you got to know what you're doing. But it's funny you bring up that story because that's actually how Kevin Deddy and I connected, right? We're out at the desert, the Awaken trip. This is what, a year ago, a little over a year ago, and we're both big watch guys. I didn't know that at the time, but we're wearing the exact same watch. It's this company, Sang and Instruments, who I'm very good friends with the owner. And I was like, oh, I like your watch, right? And we get to talking, and I, introduce myself, Cameron Toor, and he immediately connects the dots. Kevin's got all kinds of tour knives in his collection. I was like, oh man! And then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 more guys come up, like, oh, I got a Serpent. Oh, I got a Vandal. Those are 2 different models of the tour knives. I was like, oh, geez, these might be my people.
Bro, you have no idea. They
Yeah.
were
So
geeked out of their mind.
yeah.
They're like, "Hey, do you know who just came to camp?" I'm like, "Bro, we got a celebrity with us in the
No.
knife world." No, in the knife, like
Yeah.
you got to know it's a big deal. And then hooking up with my brother-in-law, he was just like singing your praises. I'm like, dude, there's a gifting on your life, and not only from that mindset, but you actually took something that was in your mind and made it a business worth selling, a business worth doing it. So what I love, you've been through a lot. And so after Tour Knives is doing its thing still, then what'd you get into as an entrepreneur? You obviously tasted entrepreneurial business success for the first time. So then you whetted your appetite. Then what'd you go into?
Um, so obviously, like I just spoke about, right? You want to understand all corners of the business. So I got to kind of get familiar with a bunch of different aspects as a business grows. And what I naturally attracted to is more marketing side and lead gen and stuff like that. So I took some time off after Tour Knives, probably a year, did a bunch of hunting, which was awesome. Story for another time, but went all over the world, hunted.
I saw your skill set at Emerge.
Okay. Yeah, oh, that's
A
right. The
raccoon,
raccoon.
man. Skinned a raccoon. We're at this men's event, which you're all around these like tough guys and then everyone thinks like I'm an Emerge man, and then you show up. They're hanging this raccoon up, and you just filleted that thing and showed us what to do. I was so fascinated, and you didn't even do it with a good knife.
No, it was like
And
a butcher blade or something.
I literally went home and I started YouTube, and I feel like I'm not doing a good job with my boys, raising 2 boys. I'm gonna have to figure out how to level this up. So I am gonna hire you to train my boys on how to skin something.
All right. I think we got something in the works, right?
Oh, we
Yeah.
got it. We're gonna do
Yeah.
something. But anyway, so yeah, that was a big event. You skinned it. So you learned that, and then what happened?
Yeah. So got involved in a couple other investments, just small startup projects. Friends basically coming to me for capital, knowledge, whatever the case was, to get their ideas out there. But the next big project was a consultancy that I started with, his name is Justin Green. He was our fractional CTO for a while at Tour Knives. So he worked for a company called Bitmotive, which is a large software sales company. And then he left at the same time I was kind of parting ways with Tour Knives. And we got together. We're like, hey, man, you did great on this side, web development, ad strategy. I do a lot of marketing stuff. Let's build a consultancy. Let's take a lot of these clients that are already there, and let's scale them. So that was really the next big project, and it's still running to this day. It's doing really well. I think at any given time we got about 3 to 4 million in ad spend under management, and to this day, I want to say we've done about 110 million in revenue for our clients. So
What am I doing with my life?
yeah, I'm telling you, I
That's
think
amazing.
we're going to talk about getting Maverick out there on some paid strategy, but yeah. So that was the
Blowing my
second one.
mind already.
But that's the team that I've moved forward with, in every other project, right? So once again, building one team that's, you can work well with, but also, can kind of flex in different areas. It's great to have an expert in one field that can stick to one demographic of customer and do one kind of thing, but having that team be flexible enough to when COVID happens and we can flex this way, or when the economy is crashing, we can flex this way, when eggs are 5 times as much as they used to be and people aren't spending money, consumer dollars like they used to, you want to be able to kind of flex with that team. So growth factor is now gone on to a few other companies of mine, more recently, the newest knife company, which is more chef based stuff. But yeah,
What date did that launch? Give me the date.
August 15th, yesterday.
August 15th.
Yeah. So
Dude, let me tell you something. So you already did your rendition of those. Tell us about your new company. So this is your new baby.
Yeah.
Come on,
New
tell
baby.
us about it. We're pumped. We got to hear about this.
So I got into a few other companies, defense contracting for a while, and that's still my baby, RE Factor Tactical. Do government work, do defense contracts, do consumer stuff as well. But I've
Civilian
always,
stuff?
yeah. So we got a website, just civilian sales, gun sales, all kinds of stuff like
What's
that.
that website?
RE Factor Tactical.
So you're not just a knife guy, you're a tactical
No,
guy too.
that company already existed, so it's not my baby. I bought it from somebody else.
Who
But
cares?
yeah, it's my baby now. I own
It's
the
your
majority
business.
stake. Yeah, so that's actually largely what I've been doing the past few years, and that's kind of where Garrett and I have really connected.
Yeah.
But
Well, tell them the side note of who you both trained with.
Garrett and I,
Yeah.
well, which one?
Well, I was talking about Posty.
Oh, so I've never trained with Posty,
Okay.
but I'm gonna plug Garrett right now. Next time he's out, let's do something.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, no, it's so
Yeah.
funny because I invited my brother-in-law down and he goes, "Dude, I can't do it." I'm like, "Dude, this is what do you mean you can't do it? This is once in a lifetime. I want you to come down, bring your wife. That's my wife's sister." I'm like, "Come on, man, let's go do this thing. It's gonna be epic." He goes, "I can't." I'm like, "Why can't you? Give me one good reason." He goes, "I'm training with Post Malone this weekend." I said, and then I'm going to his concert afterwards. I'm like, "What? Never mind. That's way cooler than what I just invited you to do." And I said, "Well, what do you mean train?" And he goes, "The guy's an expert on weapons." He sent me the video of him training in the thing, CAGWorks and Post Malone. You guys can find that on YouTube. I was blown away at the skill set. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, he's better than I would put him up against some Navy SEALs training tactically." And
Posty's
I said,
good.
"That's what he told me." And then I watched the videos and I said, "No way." So I didn't, I'm too old for Posty, but I gained a lot of respect knowing he can handle a weapon like that and he takes it serious.
It's cool, and he's posting about it now, which
He
is huge in the gun industry. Yeah, we've been silent for so long, right? We've let social media shadow ban us, and we've kind of just accepted that, oh, we're just people aren't going to like guns. Post Malone being a figurehead that's kind of in both worlds, right?
Yeah.
Pop culture, LA scene.
Yep.
Now he's got this huge following that probably doesn't exactly side with what we believe.
Yeah.
Showing him using guns is almost kind of flipping this. So I've said it forever, right? Like, we need to be louder. We need to get out there. We need to talk more. We need to talk more about why having guns are important. We need to talk about history. Every communist country or dictator regime, first thing they do is they get rid of the civilians' ability to own a weapon, right? Because they can't fight back.
Yeah, it's history.
Yeah,
it's a repeating cycle.
Yep. And democracy, what it used to be, right? It's a little different in America now. Democracy is a government by the people for the people, and we control the government. It's not the other way around. The only way that we can control the government is by having firearms, right? Having a way to defend ourselves. If the government needs to be overthrown, that's our job to do it. People have gotten in this mentality of the government controls them. It's not the case at all. So having a guy like Post Malone out there, who's now doing a lot more country style music, I'm seeing, right? He's kind of branding more towards that Southern stuff. That's awesome. Yeah. And that bridges that gap between LA, super crazy, wild ideology and what's real out there.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. So anyways, back to the entrepreneurial side. That's a cool side note is now you just launched this August 15th. Tell us about this new company and what's the why behind it.
So I kind of worked back to front on this company and with Toor Knives, we did a really good job of conquering that super high end, when I say high end, expensive knife market, right? The $400 to $500 blades, but you're targeting a very niche customer at that point. So a lot of my friends, regular people, the masses, right? The 90% of population, it's just not for them, and I've always been a big backyard chef. I've always enjoyed cooking. That's kind of my segue away from stress and, getting through the day. I wanted to create something that was bridging the gap between Cuisinart, which is your target brand, right? Go and buy a Cuisinart set, and the $1,200 super high-end Japanese custom knives, and it's like, what does that look like? How do we accomplish the performance? How do we accomplish the look? How do we just make it inviting enough to get regular people? So working back to front, I knew there was a few things I wanted to work on. The block was the biggest one. So you go and buy a Cutco set. To most people, that's the nicest set they're ever going to buy.
I got Cutco.
Yep. And you were probably cornered into spending $1,300 for the full set at once, right?
Yep.
Or, and maybe your family was going to grow and you needed the next biggest set where you're going to have to buy that whole set separate after. So, and you wanted to build a block system that was modular enough to where you could add to it or take away from it at any time. So our modular knife block, they magnetically attach. Each section of the block holds 2 knives. You can build it as big as you want, as small as you want. You can add any knives to it. You can customize it. So that was step 1, right? It's like, all right, now we're in regular people's kitchens. Step 2 is performance. I knew I wanted high-end steel. I had very unrealistic expectations about this. I wanted super high-end steel. I wanted it coated so it wouldn't get, corrosion, and I wanted to be able to easily clean it. So something a lot of people don't know, their handles are glued on, right? So bacteria, all kinds of crap just gets under that and it stays under that. They're cutting their food. They don't even realize it's embedded in that handle. So I wanted the handles to be removable for cleaning purposes, but I wanted that coating to ensure that when you did clean it, there was no corrosion, you weren't getting rust, you weren't getting anything like that. So we ended up designing our proprietary, it's what we're calling it, Titanox, which kind of goes with the name, titanium inox, Titan Zeus. And it's our own proprietary blend of titanium and
Pull
steel.
one of these bad boys out. I mean, these are the sexiest knives.
So you'll see it's naturally got kind of like a reflective finish, but off light, it's very dark. But I mean, you can throw water at this thing, you can throw oil at this thing, you leave it outside overnight and it's never going to corrode. And that's the titanium coating that's on top of it. So the third step, which is something I've never done before, that's creating a blade with flex. And you don't want flex in a tactical knife for obvious reasons if you're breaching doors or you're stabbing into tough stuff. But for cooking, you want flex when you're working around bones.
Yeah.
I do a lot of fishing, big bluefin tuna, right? When you're filleting a tuna, you'd probably use something closer to this. You want to be able to kind of bend it around the rib cage, but not too much. So
are you going to teach online videos on how to fillet fish the right way?
Yeah, I can.
Bro, you got to.
Start with a turkey, start with a fish. I don't care.
Well, I'm telling you, the reason I wanted to get this done is that people talk about a gift set for Thanksgiving, talk about Christmas coming up, I was thinking to myself, my high-end clients, what a gift, even if it was one knife at a time.
Giftology, right?
Giftology. Yep.
One of the coolest speeches I've ever heard, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, so cool. So sad to hear the news, but
I know,
I mean, it's a great gift. What we've initially had a big influx in, my wife's in the wedding industry, wedding gifts, right? So people are getting them either just as their cake cutters, or actual wedding gifts. So, we wanted to keep this under $1,000 for the full set, which we did. That's a 6-knife set that basically can tackle anything in the kitchen. A lot of those knives are universal in terms like the boning knife can be used as a fillet knife, as a paring knife. The carving knife can be used as a fillet knife as well, a larger fillet. So that was the big piece, is how do I make a knife set that's not 15 knives deep that nobody knows how to use? It's very simple. It's, cut and dry. Regular people can use it. And this is kind of what we came up with. So I was very I guess audacious in my early goals of developing it. Probably got turned down by 3 or 4 metallurgists before we even had somebody attempt it with us. But outside of that, going back to the handles, they're removable. So we have interchangeable handles. You can go buy different colors online. You can change them out. It's nice because you can clean it real easy and get all that bacteria out of there. But it comes with you can buy it in white and get 3 other colors as well, and change them out for holidays. If you remodel your house, got different paint.
That's amazing.
Started back to front with this one, whereas Toor Knives was really kind of a bootstrapped operation with a very specific goal: make knives that can breach doors and be used in a combative situation. This was more consumer in mind before we actually went to production with it.
Warrior to married. Yeah. This is the married man's knife set.
Yeah, exactly. These are regular people. I'm trying to fit in as a regular guy now.
That's right. No, you're not, man. You're set apart. What's amazing though is learning how much you learn. Think about your business journey along the way as we wrap this. Think about, you just got started in a U-Haul. And I'm sure you had naysayers. I'm sure you had people that think you were crazy, but you fought through all those steps, became an entrepreneur. You learned along as you went. Sure, there's taxes. Oh, what? I got to pay taxes. you learn along the way the hard knocks, but you didn't quit. And now you're getting to the point where you're more refined in business. Now you're savvy. You know what it takes to scale. You know what it takes to get it out there. Look what you've developed, how sexy that is. Because most people in their mind, they go to whether it's Target and buy a knife set. Someone had to think of that, but they never put the name or the face to it. It's cool that that you're into this iteration of yourself.
It's fun, right? And it's like so many people have the retirement mindset of work really hard at something and then kick your feet up, and that's like the most toxic mindset to have. So I totally understand that life is this process of constantly learning, constantly developing. Right now, this is where I'm at, and I'm pretty proud of it. But to kind of
How big's this going?
so far, we've already recouped in the first week a third of our initial investment. So it's taking off pretty fast. And we got 2 distribution calls next week to kind of get more into boutique style distributors. But yeah, it's doing well. Luckily, I had a very large following from the early days and a lot of supporters that knew kind of capabilities already. So it's doing really well. Very
That's
blessed. So
amazing, man.
yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting journey. And, I think going back to, the first part of the podcast, we're talking about being a warrior, and you referenced your high school football days. I think a lot of people also assume that being a warrior is like already being that Captain America figure, but a warrior is the guy that gets tackled, right? Is the guy that just gets destroyed time and time and time and time again, and then just gets back up, keeps playing football. So it's like you are a warrior for that. And it's like none of us, we often get glorified as these Captain America figures in movies and whatnot. We're a bunch of beat up kids from most likely broken families, and we won't quit, and we get back up every time we get punched in the face. And I think Titan Zeus is probably the greatest example of that, of just time and time again, been struck down by, this steel company or this producer or this guy who thinks this should be $4,000 set. But here we are, and it's $900 for the full set, and each knife is under a 200 if you buy it individually. So that, in my opinion, that's what being a warrior is, and that applies to everything.
It is true. I look back, I maybe not a warrior in the physical, but my dad said one time, he said, my first fight ever, I was in 8th grade, and this guy was a bully, and I was so tired of him. And I went up and I picked a fight with him, and I said, I only have one rule: don't punch me in the face. And I'll never forget, this guy looked at me like, you're picking a fight with me, but you're telling me what the rules are? And I go, yeah, I'm keeping this face pretty. So my dad used to say I wanted to never let anyone punch me in the face, but I'd always have this fighter mentality. Like, I wanted to fight for justice. I wanted to fight for a cause. And he goes, that's why you're a pastor, man. You got this spiritual warrior on the inside of you. So you may not like fighting in the physical, but you fight in the spiritual, like you're that, like
100%.
your brother was raised, like how I was raised, how your grandpa was raised. So it's like we all show up in the warrior we need to be for our family. And I think as entrepreneurs, when you take on that title, I'm going to leave the comfort of the W-2, and I'm going to go chase my dream. You have to have a warrior's mentality. But just you saying that leap of faith, it's faith. There's a warrior already in you. Now you just got to train like one, be disciplined like one, get around that, what you said on having the right team, finding those people that can support you, help you. I want to be the dumbest person in the room. Garrett and I see eye to eye on that. Like, we don't want to be the smartest person in the room. We want to be surrounded by really smart people. I always joke people, man, I got the mind like Forrest Gump. I need it simple. You can't explain it to me, break it down, or I can't think through it. It's not going to be right for me. But I don't need to be the smartest guy, but I need to execute efficiently, effectively, and fast. And it's just incredible to see your journey that you've been on, man. So proud of you. I'm pumped to see where you're going. Excited, building the family now, doing that stuff. That's a whole nother, you're going to need Warrior Up Parenting 2.0.
We're already reading books and watching podcasts, and that's like, I don't know how anybody does it with kids, right? Or they like how you do it with an army for a family, and you got 4 companies and running left and right and doing that. Godspeed.
Well, you know what it is, fam. You just never forget the important things.
Yep.
And companies, well, fun again. That's the entrepreneurial mind, so you don't get bored, but raising them with a purpose. And my goal is to have one company I can leave to every kid.
That's awesome.
So I have my golden goose, Every company I start hasn't. So I named it Maverick. I'm gonna build this legacy, and I'm gonna leave it to my boy. He can do whatever he wants with it. I don't care. But I built it for him. My other company, it's Merrick Holdings. Then I have Hubbard Holdings. That's for my firstborn. I want all these companies to represent that they'll find purpose with them, and if it resonates with them, and they want it to be part of their purpose and vision, here. It's yours.
Love it.
Daddy built it for you.
That's yeah, I was actually just talking to Zoe about this. A lot of kids get handed a check. Worst thing you do, right? You hand them opportunity. So if that's handing them a business, if that's handing them dual citizenship somewhere where they can work in 2 countries, whatever that means, hand them opportunity, and they'll always work for it. It's transactional.
That's why I don't do chores. I just tell my kids, it's like, you're going to learn how to create value for people. Like this whole thing, we're creating value for people. Each one of them, you don't have chores. That's just called expectation therapy. All these other things that you do, you get a menu of things you get to choose from. You get to pick the menu that you want to add value for mom, for dad, for our community, for whatever. You pick those things, you add value, you're going to get paid, you're going to get paid well. And everything that adds value, there's a tag, I have a price tag to it, what they're going to earn. And so they don't get paid for chores. That's just, you live here. You're welcome.
That's your rent.
You're welcome. I'm feeding you tonight. You're welcome. Yeah. But the other thing, my boy, he collects knives now.
Does he?
Yeah. And so, but now he knows, like he saves here. And so he was into the small, he just liked cool knives that look cool, but they're, just cheap. Now he's understanding knives. He's 9 and he just saw this one he really liked and he saw the price tag on it. It's like $180. And he goes, Dad, on this menu, how many things? And we were showing all the little notches. And I said, you can repeat this every week and it's going to take you this many weeks, or you can hit all these things in 1 week and it's going to take you 4 weeks. And he goes, I want to crush it out, Dad. When we get back from Lake Powell, I'm going to hit them all. I said, man, you're going to be busy. He goes, I know. What about your homework? I'll get it done, Dad. I said, okay.
That's so awesome.
I said, what's your number one distraction? He goes, Fortnite, but I'm done with that. I want that knife. And so I realized right there was my little win, knowing that I'm not making him, I'm not forcing him, but I'm teaching him the value of money. He's going to learn all that hard work. It cost him for that one little blade.
Yep.
But that's going to be a life lesson.
I love that. My dad used to make me do that, right? We'd go on vacation somewhere, say we're going to the Bahamas, and we didn't have a lot of money. It may have not been exactly in terms of how much that plane ticket cost, but it was mow every lawn, wash every car on the street, right? And it was like, you earn your plane ticket. And when you're 7 years old, it's like, I got to pay for my own plane ticket. But it gives you that idea of like, I'm watching mom use the credit card to buy the plane ticket. Now I got to somehow recoup that money by mowing every lawn, and neighbors weren't paying.
And now look.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, right here.
Yeah.
Titan Zeus.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the Instagram or what's the website? How do they find this?
It's all TZ Knives. So www.tzknives.com. Instagram is TZ Knives. Facebook, TZ Knives. Everything's TZ Knives.
Come on, I love it. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you. We can go on for hours. We'll have to do a part 2 one of these days. And hey, give it up for this man. You already know the set that you're going to be looking for whether it's Christmas, a wedding gift, or a birthday. Hey, show up a hero. Don't be buying these one-off lame knives. You know what you need to do. My favorite knife was a Father's Day gift I got 2 years ago. And literally, my wife just searched high and low for this thing, and I treat it like it's a trophy. I mean, I pull that thing out of the leather case. I pull it out. I look at it. Now I am fascinated because I notice there's a little rust on it, and I don't know how to get off, and I'm listening to your blades going, freaking A. But the handle on that bad boy.
Cool.
Makes every time I pull it out, I feel like I'm gaining testosterone.
Yeah, Rambo.
That's it. I tell my wife, I was like, she goes, you think, you're getting older. Do you think you're going to go on testosterone like all your buddies? I said, babe, I just pull out that knife and I play with it. It boosts. That's why I like big trucks, fast cars, and good knives. So
love it.
Well, let's give it up for Cameron Toor. Thank you for watching another episode of The Maverick Entrepreneur. We will see you soon on an episode coming to you fresh right off the block. Stay tuned.